Wars always seem to be happening somewhere on this happy little planet of ours, and every year either another one starts or an older one continues. For example, in 2025 there was the 12-day war between Israel and Iran, but also the ongoing wars in Gaza and Ukraine, etc. 2024 gave us the Ecuadorian conflict, 2023 the Sudanese civil war, 2022 the Chittagong Hill Tracts conflict in Bangladesh, and Al-Shabaab's invasion of Ethiopia. 2021 slapped us with the Myanmar civil war, and 2020 coughed up the second Nagorno-Karabakh war. So my question is, how far do we have to go back before we find a year in recorded history where there was no war? A year where a war or significant military engagement did not take place. Is this even possible? Let's find out. Well, it wasn't 2019, and it wasn't 2018 either. Nope. Again, nope. This may take a while. 2015 had the Islamic State Taliban conflict. 2014, the start of the Russo-Ukrainian War and the Yemeni Civil War. 2013 gave us the South Sudanese Civil War. 2012, the Mali War and Central African Republic Civil War. 2011 provided the Libyan Civil War. From 2003 to 2011, the Iraq War raged. And in these years, there were all sorts of additional conflicts ranging in location from the Congo to Kyrgyzstan. Now, let's keep going, and to save time, I'll try using conflicts that stretch over multiple years when possible. Right, from 2001 to 2021, there was the Taliban insurgency. From 1991 to 2001, the Yugoslav Wars. 1990, the Gulf War and Rwandan Civil War. From 1975 to 91, there was war in the Western Sahara, and this was about the same duration of time as the Lebanese Civil War. From 1955 to 75, the Vietnam War. 1954 kicked off the Algerian War. 1950 to 53, Korean War. 1945 to 49, second phase of the Chinese Civil War. 1939 to 45, World War II, the deadliest conflict in human history. From 1936 to 39, there was the Spanish Civil War. From 32 to 35, there was the Chaco War between Paraguay and Bolivia. From 23 to 32, there was the pacification of Libya, Italy doing the pacifying. From 1917 to 22, there was the Russian Civil War. And of course, from 1914 to 18, there was the First World War. From 1900 to 20, there was the Somaliland Campaign. And from 1899 to 1901, there was the Boxer Rebellion in China. 1898's Spanish-American War preceded it, and the Greco-Turkish War of 1897 preceded that. And earlier was the Fourth Anglo-Asante War, and the First Sino-Japanese War, and the Samoan Civil War, and the Sino-French War, and from 1879 to 83 we see the War of the Pacific, where Chile fought against Peru and Bolivia. The Russo-Turkish War was before that, the Third Carlist War before that, and prior to all that, the Franco-Prussian War, the Cretan Revolt against the Ottomans, the American Civil War, the Colombian Civil War, and Chile's Revolution. Then, from 1857 to 58, we have the Indian Rebellion. But taking us back to 1817 was the Caucasian War involving the Russian Empire, in which space of time many other conflicts occurred, such as the Zulu Wars of Expansion in southern Africa and the Crimean War in Crimea. 1816 saw the bombardment of Algiers. From 1802 to 15, we had the Napoleonic Wars, and before that, the First Barbary War, the Anglo-Spanish War, the Northwest Indian War, the Oman-Zanzibar War, and before that, the American Revolutionary War, which takes us back to 1775. Earlier, we bear witness to another Russo-Turkish War and the Sino-Burmese War, Pontiac's War, the 7 Years' War, the Third Javanese War of Succession, and before that, the War of the Austrian Succession. Going back to 1735 to 40, we have the Bashkir Rebellion, and prior to that, the Ottoman-Persian War, and the Anglo-Spanish War. Oh, and look here, another war happened before that, and an earlier one, and another, and another, and another, and one more, another one, and the devastating 30 Years' War came before that, and the Ottoman-Safavid War before that, and look here, another war, and another before that, and a big one before that, and another one, and another, and another, and another, and with this, and this, we make it back to the year 1500 with no luck at all at finding a year without war. What do you think? Should we give up, or keep digging? Keep going. Alright, but I don't have much hope. Let's resume. 1499 gave us the Swabian War, and the Polish-Ottoman War preceded that, and before that we have the long-lasting Aztec Flower War, and another flower war in the form of the Wars of the Roses. And stepping all the way back to 1337, we spot the commencement of the 100 Years' War, which stretched all the way to 1453, in which time many other conflicts occurred, from the Battle of Kosovo to the Hussite Wars. Before that looms the long, grim, troublesome time of the Mongol invasions and conquests, the second deadliest epoch epoch in human history, and during those years a great many other conflicts occurred, from the Genko War in Japan to the Second War of Scottish Independence, and before all this, you guessed it, more war. And as we step back we find more, and before that a long Byzantine-Norman conflict lasting from 1040 to 1189, during which era much additional battling occurred, from the conquest of England to the Genpei War. The protracted Norman conquest of southern Italy brings us back to the year 1000, and still no luck at finding a warless year. Keep going, give up? Alright, let's keep going. Heading further back we have the Byzantine conquest of Bulgaria, and the long bloody era wherein the Magyar or Hungarians invaded and caused havoc through Europe. In the larger span of time from 793 to 954, Britain was raided, attacked and even occupied by the Vikings, who of course attacked many others during this time too. Now from 720 to 832 there were the Bashmurian revolts in Egypt, and before all that we have the Umayyad invasion of Gaul, and the conquest of the Iberian Peninsula, and before that Maya city-state conflicts in Mexico, and before that more Maya warfare, and earlier the Tang dynasty of China's campaigns against the Western Turks. Arab conquests of Egypt and the Levant take us back to 634, and still no relief from warfare. And earlier, more war, and more, and more, and more, and did someone say civil war? No? Well, have this more conventional bloodshed instead. More Maya mayhem. And before that, a Gothic war, and they weren't even fighting emos. And before that, we have a 40-year-long tribal conflict in Arabia that all started because someone killed a camel. And prior to this, we observe the conquest of Italy by Theodoric the Great. Now, at first sight, the year 487, though one of geopolitical messiness, did not appear to me to be one in which any noteworthy conflict arose around the world. But after a minute or so of quick research, represented here by this bland stock footage, I discovered that in this year, the barbarian king Odoacer invaded, battled, and later beat the Rugi in modern-day Austria. So, thanks a lot, Odoacer, but that's a nice mustache you got there. Now, the year before, battle. The year before that, another battle. More war before, and from around 300 to beyond the fall of Rome in 476 we have the so-called migration period, where tribes of Goths and Huns and Franks etc. were endlessly invading, attacking and settling in portions of Europe. And before all that, more war! And still more. Things are not looking good, friends. More, and before that the 6 decades of chaos in China known as the Three Kingdoms period. But on the previous episode, more war, and before, and before, and before, and before, and before, and before... Huh. Wait a minute. 212. Now here's an interesting year. There seems to have been a bit of a lull in the chaotic collapse of the Han Dynasty in China, and no battles are recorded as occurring in that year as far as my research could tell. Liu Bei was maneuvering, Cao Cao was scheming, but no actual warfare. Meanwhile, in the west, Rome's Caracalla did not begin his campaign against the Germanic Alemanni until 213. Likewise, the rebellion of Artabanus IV of Parthia against his brother is dated to 213. 212 was apparently free from war? Just a minute, it would still be a mistake to call 212 a peaceful year. It wasn't. After murdering his brother in December 211, Emperor Caracalla, and he looks like a disagreeable brute, doesn't he, basically butchered anyone who had been on his brother's side. Historian Dio Cassius says 20,000 were slain. This massacre ensures that the year 212 was not even slightly peaceful, but nevertheless, it was technically not a battle or a war, and since, in this search, I've not yet come across a year so remarkably bereft of conspicuous military engagements, and since this video has to end somewhere, it may as well be here. So congratulations, 212, you win! And while you were not a peaceful year, you were at least more peaceful than any other ones that followed you. And it's kind of upsetting that we have to travel back over 1,800 years to find a span of 365 days when there wasn't a war starting, or a battle from a previous war being waged. Now, tell me, do you think it's possible to have a year as relatively slaughter-free as 212 in the future? Will people ever stop extinguishing each other's lives, at least en masse? Let me know, and until next time, bye-bye!